Hey y'all, Caleb the camera guy here. Today I want to talk about color grading iPhone footage. As many of you know, color grading is a super important process and it can dramatically change the look and feel of your video. First, I want to tell you a little bit of backstory on why I decided to make this video. If you don't want to hear the story and you just want to jump into the edit and see what I did, you can skip ahead. So about 2 years ago, when I first went full-time as a videographer, I was out shooting for another project, but while we were on scene, we ended up uncovering this whole another story. And little did I know, I was going to be starting a documentary. And although our schedule didn't allow us a lot of time to set up and do everything we wanted to, we just needed to grab what we could and keep moving. Back then, I didn't have two cameras. All I had was my Fujifilm X-T4 and an iPhone 13, but we needed to set up for some interviews. So I set up my iPhone 13 as a wide shot and then my Fujifilm X-T4 as a tight shot. Fast forward 2 years later, finally I'm starting to edit this documentary and I look at the iPhone footage and it's just, it is what it is. It's iPhone footage, you know what I mean? Granted, I'm no professional when it comes to shooting on iPhones. I've seen people that do amazing work with iPhones, but that's just not me. But more importantly, I improvised, we got both angles, and it didn't turn out too bad. Today I want to show you how I recovered that footage and made it look almost as good as my Fujifilm X-T4. Let's jump into the edit. I do want to say I'm not a pro colorist by any means, so whatever you see here is just what I've learned from watching YouTube videos and just trial and error. So here's my shot. As you can see, it's in this really big, nice hall. We didn't have any lights for this shoot. Like I said, we weren't there initially thinking that we were gonna get this stuff. So I actually used the natural window light and it turned out looking pretty good. So this is just a perfect example of, you know, as a videographer, sometimes you just gotta work with what you got and use the natural light to your advantage. Onward. This is the iPhone footage, the wide shot, and then here's my Fujifilm X-T4 shot. And if I turn this grade off real quick, you can kind of see that the temperature was very warm and I wanted to separate the subject from the background a little bit more. And so this is kind of the grade that I came up with to do that. And I won't get too much into this grade because what we're talking about is the iPhone footage and how I made that look like this. I'll blow this up for you guys so you can see us real quick. So as you can see here, the background is nice and dark. He's nice and bright. I pushed some blues into the back to offset his skin tones. And so when we go over into the iPhone footage, this is what that looks like. Here's the Fujifilm X-T4. Here's the iPhone footage. And so I had to match the blues in the background in this curtain here. And so let's just start from the beginning. If I turn all this off, you'll see what it originally looked like. It's very warm. Like I said, I'm no pro with the iPhone, so I mean, this is just what I got from turning it on in 4K and then hitting record. So here's without the color grade. Here's with the color grade. Let me blow it up so you can see with the color grade, without the color grade. Quite a dramatic difference. And so I'm gonna show you how we got there. So if I turn all this off, I'll just start one by one and go down my node tree. So initially, I just dropped the shadows a little bit in the entire image. And then after that, I went in and added a depth map. I'll show you what this depth map looks like. So I wanted to make sure that I was just affecting the background and not my subject with these next couple adjustments. I set my depth map to make sure that he was nice and white and kind of feathered it off into the background. Then I hit invert. So it's just affecting what's behind him back there. And with this depth map, I went in here and dropped the temperature, pulled it more into the blues. So as you can see, I'll reset that. And then I dropped the contrast a little bit. If I turn this back up, you'll see what, you know, it's a little too shadowy for my liking. So I just dropped the contrast. And then from there, I did some minor adjustments down here to the lift and gain. I pulled the lift slightly down into the teal, and then I dropped it down to my liking for the shadows. Then over here, I dropped the saturation just a little bit because it was looking a little too saturated for me. And if I blow this up, that gets us in a pretty good position. You know, he's separated from the background's nice and dark, his skin tone's reddish, so you know, we got some nice blues in the back to contrast it. I also added a little bit of blur in this depth map. If I blow this up again, you can kind of see it blurs off back here. So if I toggle this on and off, See how sharp it is back here? So just adding that little bit of blur separates him a little more. Makes it look like an actual camera shot it and not just iPhone. So I'll toggle this off and on one more time so you can just see what that, just with the depth map, how much better it looks. That looks much better. Now let's move on to my parallel nodes here. If you don't know how to add a parallel node, you'll just click on your node, add node, parallel node, and these are all of my window adjustments. So for this one here, let me toggle this on so you can see. This one here is a adjustment for the face. Let me toggle this back off. So it's just lightly bringing up the highlights there in his face. This next window here is for sharpness. We punch in here so you can see this. Here's with it off, here's with it on. And it's ever so slight, but it just brings some sharpness to the image. That's what this power window looks like. I just kind of covered him. Toggle that back. And when you're doing the sharpness, you want to be really careful because this can go from like looking okay. See, originally it's at 50. And as you go down, it just gets real crazy real fast. And so I only brought it down to 48. Here's without sharpness, with sharpness. And it's not much, but it's just enough. Just like everything in color grading, you want to be really careful and not go too crazy and do just what you need to do to make the image look good. This next node here is a power window that I inverted using this right here. And you can kind of see what I did. I just dropped the gamma and the gain quite a bit. And then I also dropped the mid-level detail to about 24. You don't want to go too crazy with it. Again, this is just a minor adjustment to help separate the subject from the background and draw your eye to the subject. And then with this power window back here, when I had made the depth map adjustment, I noticed that this light kind of lost its spark. Well, this power window, you can see it's just ever so slightly, but it's just bringing back some of the orange because I pushed some teal and changed the color balance and just bringing up the luminance a little bit. So I did that over here in the curves page. As you can see, I just pulled up the hue versus sat and then the hue versus loom a tad bit. You don't have to go too crazy with this or it'll start looking weird. So just push it up a little bit. And same with the saturation, just a little bit. If you go too crazy, it'll start looking real orange. Just little adjustments. And for this last power window, let me toggle it on so you can see what I did here. For this last power window, I just brought this down with the shadows, and I noticed that there was a little bit of difference in the, let me get rid of this so you can see. These curtains back here have this bluish tint to them, and then as they go this way, because of the depth map falling off, they start to turn this, I guess, pinkish, purplish, I don't know what you would call that color, but they just get warmer. And so I created this power window here just to bring it back to the bluish color, drop the shadows down a little bit, and I did that by just pushing the lift into the teal and then just dropping the lift. Another minor adjustment, but all the little things really add up to like a really good, nice picture overall. And so doing this kind of draws your eye away from this light over here and kind of pushes your eye this way with this light. So if I toggle all this off and on again, let me zoom out here or get rid of this. Here's the beginning image. Bam. Here's without power windows. You can see everything's kind of bright. Your eye just kind of gets distracted all over here. There's all this stuff and detail to look at. And then with all these power window adjustments, boom, draws your eye right to him in the middle. makes it less distracting in the background. But overall, this is a really nice looking shot, especially for an iPhone. Like, I'm super impressed on how far I could push this around. And overall, just look at how much we separate them from the background with this darkness. And the depth map is a incredibly powerful tool. I'll make this full screen for you guys so you can see the end result again. Here's without the color grade. Here's with the color grade. This really just does look good. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned a couple things. If you have any questions or comments, leave it down below. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more content and stay tuned.